in Mr. Depp's world, you don't leave Mr. Depp. And if you do, he will start a campaign of global humiliation against him.
Right from when the trial ended up till this very moment, Depp's legal team have pretty much been the talk of the town. And that's all thanks to how effortless it was for them to get Johnny his life back. But as easy as it might have seemed, it actually took a lot of meticulous planning and putting up with some less than ideal moves from the opposition. But now they have finally been exposed, and you won't believe how far they went.
With any other person could be defamatory, and that's clearly not what the First Amendment intends.
It's pretty much general knowledge at this point that Amber and her entire team cheated their way through most of the trial, making wild accusations and bringing up less than ideal witnesses. But what you didn't know is that they actually hijacked something that was for Depp's team during their closing arguments. This recent revelation just hit the media following Ben Chu's latest interview with the Beverly Hills Bar Association. And according to his explanation, he and Camille were actually in a pretty tight spot during the closing arguments. Specifically, they were faced with the dilemma of whether they should face the jury with the documents containing their closing arguments in front of them, or they should stay far away from them, which would have implied uncertainty and fear to the jury. According to the lawyer, the reason they even had this problem to start with was because they hadn't had enough time in between all of their work to totally memorize their closing arguments, thus their predicament at the time.
We want to be before the jury just with a big stack of notes, which is kind of awkward, or do we want to, seek protection behind the big podium, which would look like we were afraid?
But being the geniuses we've repeatedly seen them as, they were able to come up with a solution. Explaining further, Chu revealed that he brought a tiny podium, which used to be his mother's and also just happened to perfectly suit their needs, and it did serve them perfectly.
That had belonged to my mother. It was an encyclopedia holder. So I found that, I brought it in.
But when they were done giving their closings, both lawyers of Depp's team forgot to take their little podium with them. And Amber's team, who also had the same dilemma, but without a solution, decided to take advantage of the fact that Chu had forgotten the podium there. And by the time Chu had realized, it was too late. And while many people would agree that Amber's team's behavior wasn't exactly ideal, Chu actually had other plans in mind to get them back for pulling a fast one on them with the podium.
Rottenborn, he took advantage of it. Before I could take the podium away and force him to make that Hobson's choice, he seized the podium.
You see, when Chu first got the little podium, he revealed that he actually put an alpaca that was given to him by one of Johnny's fans prior to that time in said podium. And that led to another ingenious idea for the lawyer, as he proceeded to use that simple fact to completely ruin Amber's lawyer's closing. Because comment, alpacas were basically an identity attached to Johnny, and this was all it took to throw Amber's team totally off their game. So even though they stole the podium, Chu still got them back for it. And in my opinion, it was very much worth it.
And to throw him off during a break, I said, there's an alpaca in there. And he gave me stink eye. So we had a little.
In the end, I think we can all agree that things turned out pretty well. I mean, for Depp's side at least, given that they won the trial and did so by a landslide, and without a doubt, that closing was one of the major factors that helped them get that win. And this is also why fans have been gushing nonstop about the interview, like this user who wrote, "Such a great interview. I love how Ben is aware of his privilege and yet wants to use his voice to uplift minorities and women. I love me some Ben Chu." Well, if Johnny's team was still able to beat Amber after they cheated, then this appeal will probably go worse for Team Amber, but we'll see how things turn out. That's it for now. See you in the next one.